My name is Clara Winters. It's April of 2025, and I've just moved into a newly renovated apartment in Ottawa's Bywood Market District. I chose this place for its bright modern finish, proximity to work, and the promise of starting fresh after a toxic relationship ended. The building is 7 stories tall, built in the 2000s, with a shared laundry room and good neighbors, or so I thought. I kept the bathroom curtains drawn shut during the day, just in case. It became habit after I faintly glimpsed something as I returned from the kitchen one spring morning. I'd taken off my coat and wandered into the bathroom. For a split second, I saw long, pale legs beneath the shower curtain, far too long and far too still for someone plugging in a bath. I spun around. The apartment was empty. I thought it was a trick of light, just an optical illusion, but the feeling wouldn't leave me. I decided to buy a small security camera for the bathroom, non-networked, with local SD storage, elite for household use. That night, I bolted the patio door and closed the latch on the bathroom door so it couldn't swing open in the night. At 1:42 a.m., the camera recorded a flash of shapes on the edges of the curtain, just a flicker. Not quite legs, but enough to make my blood freeze. The bathroom light switched itself on, and I jumped out of bed without even thinking. I must have left the living room light off, hall lights dim but intact. When I hurried there, nothing was on the SD card. Just a blank file labeled 1602 with 0 seconds. Hopefully a glitch. I bought a white plastic shower curtain that wouldn't leave shadows. I thought it would solve the problem. The apartment looked sterile, but at least safer. At 3:03 a.m., my smartphone buzzed. It was the camera paired via Bluetooth. The message, motion detected 2147. I ran to the living room. The app had crashed. I launched it again, but all that remained was a series of thumbnail pictures, taken in fractions of a second, one every few minutes. Scrolling through them, I saw a pair of legs again, bare legs, pale and unnaturally stretched, peeking out from beneath the curtain. The legs didn't match me. The feet were pointed the wrong way. The calves seemed to ripple, almost like they were moving underwater. That night, my dreams were of pale reflections in the shower basin, with something leaning out of the tub. By day, I tried to appear normal. I told a friend, Martin, about the dormancy of curtains and cameras. He gifted me a new smartphone with a night vision app. I ran around the bathroom at midnight, sanity check, and saw nothing but clean porcelain. But at 2:47 a.m., the app recorded movement behind the curtain, then an unnatural shift clicks on the floor, something pacing under the line of view. The fridge beeped. The clock flashed, then few seconds later resumed. Black footprints appeared on the gray tile bath mat. I replaced the bathroom light bulbs with brighter daylight bulbs and added a motion detector nightlight active between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. At 3:11 a.m., the nightlight came on. I woke. I saw a figure standing behind the curtain when I first opened my eyes. The curtain's bottom hem moved, and I swear I saw toes emerge, 9 toes. And no heels. The body paused, then switched off the light. When I opened my eyes again, I lay face down in the bed and I heard no screams. Everything wound up moving too far now. Today, small holes appeared in the seam of the shower curtain, 3 holes, in a triangular pattern. I counted the holes 3 times to convince myself it was accidental, but I know they weren't. I found them before receiving the motion alert. My phone pinged at exactly 4:04. Screenshot showed a shape behind the curtain, 2 knees bent slightly, with long, spindly shins. I didn't sleep. I haven't eaten breakfast in days. The last straw came when I discovered faint marks on the bathroom wall. Tiny gouges, vertical like scraped fingernails, immediately behind where the curtain hangs. That was enough. I installed a simple floor camera aimed at the bathroom threshold. And tonight, at 3:33 a.m., I heard the bathroom door creak open. I raced there. The camera file is uploading now, and I'm terrified to look. The file from the floor camera refused to open. The app played it for 2 seconds, then returned an error. Corrupted media. I ran it through my laptop, tried VLC, then a forensic data recovery tool from Reddit. Eventually, I got a frame. One single frame. It showed the curtain, just the curtain, but the fabric was taut, stretched outward, as if someone was leaning their face into it from the other side. Only it wasn't a face. It was flat, like a mannequin's. No features. Smooth. No pressure at the nose. Just skin pushing outward. I couldn't tell if it was trying to push through or just listening. In a half-rational panic, I called the landlord and insisted something was wrong with the plumbing. Strange smells, strange moisture, vibrations under the tiles. I needed an excuse for someone else to look at it. The plumber arrived around noon. Older guy, kind eyes, took one step inside the bathroom and paused. He didn't go in. He stared at the curtain, then asked me if I ever had issues with mold. I said no. He didn't look convinced. He peeled back the curtain, slowly, then frowned and called me in. There were long, wet streaks along the wall, but they came from above, high up near the ceiling. The streaks looked like something had been breathing onto the wall. Human-sized. Condensation traced the shape of a torso. He suggested a dehumidifier. That evening, I realized I hadn't told him where the bathroom was. I hadn't even said it was the shower, not the sink. The shower turned on by itself while I was brushing my teeth. It wasn't the hiss of a faulty valve. It was a full-on gush, the kind where you turn the handle hard. I jolted back. When I peeked around the curtain, the tub was full of murky water that wasn't draining. And the smell. Rotten iron and old milk. I yanked open the curtain, and nothing was in there. No hair in the drain. No backup. But when I stuck a mop handle down, it hit something soft. Like a pillow. Or clothing. It shifted when I pushed harder. The next morning, the tub was dry. Nothing inside. No stains. Just a damp circle where my mop had dripped. Around 2:12 a.m., I heard something dragging across the tiles. A rhythmic, slow scrape. I didn't go check. I pulled the covers over my head and tried to stay still, but I swear on my life, I heard whispering. A voice just behind the bathroom door. Muffled like waterlogged speech. It was saying, "Step in." 3 times. Step in. When I checked at sunrise, the door was cracked open, and the curtain was drawn. Inside the tub, a clump of long black hair had been plastered in a spiral at the bottom. I'm blonde. A small detail, but terrifying in context. I keep my towels hung neatly. Always 2. One for the body, one for the face. They dry in order. That morning, I found a body towel wet, bunched up at the base of the door. The other was untouched. I hadn't showered that night. My sister, Meredith, is the only one who believes me. We're not close, we used to be, but she always had a sensitivity to weird things. When our grandfather died, she swore his dog stood by the window for 3 days, even though it died a year earlier. She came over after I begged her to see what I'd seen. She stepped into the bathroom. It was noon. Sunlight. Clear skies. She stared at the curtain for 5 seconds before whispering, "Did you ever hear it breathe?" I didn't answer. She walked back out without saying anything. Later, she sent me a text. Don't close the curtain anymore. And don't let it see your reflection. It doesn't want the water. It wants your shape. The sound of water running began even when the pipes were off. Not from the faucet, from the ceiling. Sometimes it trickled. Sometimes it sounded like something heavy dropping wet limbs into a shallow pool. Always behind the curtain. Once I lifted my phone to record, and the camera froze on a single frame. The live preview wouldn't update. But that frame? It showed feet under the curtain, facing away from me, slightly hovering above the ground. Tonight, I woke from a nightmare where I saw myself sitting in the bathtub. I had no eyes, and my mouth was stitched shut with my own hair. When I tried to scream, all that came out was the sound of shower water. I jumped out of bed, and the bathroom door creaked. From my hallway, I looked at the curtain. There were two shadows visible beneath it. Not one. One pair of feet stood facing the wall. The other was turned toward me. Neither moved. I didn't sleep. At sunrise, I took a pair of fabric scissors and walked straight into the bathroom. I didn't look at the bottom of the curtain, even though I could feel a presence behind it, like the air was being compressed inward toward the tub. I started cutting. The curtain made a wet sound when the scissors sliced through it. Not like plastic or vinyl, more like meat. Like cartilage. Halfway through, I hit something resistant. I pulled harder. The blade twisted and snapped off. I looked down. The floor was dry, the curtain inert, swaying a little. But in the slit I'd made, I could see a gray, veined surface, flesh-colored and too smooth to be the wall. It pulsed slightly when I stared. I left the apartment and walked 3 miles without stopping. Meredith called after visiting the local historical society. Your building has had 4 unexplained disappearances in the last 20 years. All in the same unit. Yours. She paused. Every single one lived alone. Every single one reported issues with the shower. She sent me a name, Clara Henley. 1999. Young woman. Teacher. Vanished one night after reporting movement in her mirror and sounds like water when I sleep. Then another, Malik Donovan. 2006. Freelance writer. Found his apartment locked from the inside. Only sign of disturbance was a wet handprint on the inside of the fridge door. A third, Joan Pine. 2012. Tenant in her 70s. Claimed she heard voices in her pillows. Reported her own dreams to police before she stopped answering her phone. None of their bodies were ever found. I started to cry. I spent all night sitting in the living room, staring at the bathroom. The hallway light flickered. When I blinked, I swear the door opened wider. I went in. This time, I brought a flashlight and peeled back the curtain. The slit I'd cut had healed. Not mended. Healed. The vinyl looked like it had grown back over itself, sealing the wound. But now it had a faint seam, and it twitched when I touched it. The tub smelled like a hospital room. I aimed my flashlight at the far wall, and then I saw it, faint outlines of legs. 2 long impressions, like something permanently pressed into the wall tiles. Human shape, but stretched too long, as if the wall remembered every time something stood there. And then I noticed the water was running again, but silently. I took down the bathroom mirror. I swear it had started reflecting something else entirely. Sometimes I'd look in, and my body would be off by a few seconds. I'd lift my hand, and my reflection would hesitate. But it didn't hesitate in the right way. It paused, then moved more fluidly than I ever had, like it had studied me for years. The day I removed the mirror, I saw something that made my spine lock. My reflection smiled, even though I wasn't. I called a contractor. I lied and said I suspected black mold behind the shower wall and that I needed it removed urgently. The guy showed up at 4 p.m. He didn't say much, just nodded and started pulling back drywall after checking for studs. Well, he cracked through the tile backing. He gagged, and then he left. Not ran, not walked fast. Just put down the crowbar, said nope, and walked out like he'd stepped on a landmine. I looked inside myself. There was a second tub, not connected to anything, built into the wall cavity like a mold. Inside it was a perfect human impression, arms, legs, even a head-shaped hollow, like someone had lain in it for a long, long time. The bottom of the imprint was wet, and something in the corner had teeth. Meredith stayed over that night. She laid salt around the bed. She's always been into folklore. She told me not to answer anything that called me by name in the dark. We turned off the lights. Around 3:15 a.m., we both heard it, running water. But not just from the tub, from the hallway, as though it were spreading. Then came the whispering, but it wasn't English. It wasn't words. It was a sound that mimicked breath, but formed shapes in your head. I felt it press against the door. Then I heard my voice say, "It's okay now. You can step in." But I hadn't spoken. Meredith gripped my hand so hard I thought she'd break my fingers. "I can't stay. This place is not haunted. It's occupied. Whatever is behind that curtain. Whatever lives in the walls and sleeps in the unused tub. It doesn't want me gone. It wants me submerged." I tried burning the curtain. It screamed. I'm not being metaphorical. When the plastic caught fire, a shrieking hiss like a newborn calf being branded echoed through the entire unit. The air turned so humid my fire alarm burst. The flame snuffed itself out, and the curtain was whole again. Tonight will be my last night here. I'm leaving the camera on. I'm setting my phone to record. I'm not going to sleep. If I wake up in the tub, if I hear water from inside my pillow again, if I see those legs just inches below the curtain one more time, I'll know I was never meant to leave. This place doesn't kill you. It learns you, and then it becomes you. Last night, I awoke to the unmistakable sound of bare feet slapping on tile. I live alone. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just lay in bed, eyes wide in the dark, listening. The footsteps didn't rush or stumble. They were slow, deliberate, steady enough to sound like they knew I was awake. I wanted to believe I had dreamed it, but my heart was racing too violently. This wasn't the echo of sleep. The steps circled around the apartment once, then went silent. I stayed frozen in bed until sunrise. When I finally got the nerve to check the bathroom, the floor was wet. Not puddle, but damp, as though someone had stepped out of the tub and walked around the apartment. The rug outside the shower was soaked, but the shower curtain, it was wide open. I caved and called the plumber again. He showed up this time, and when I walked him to the bathroom, he paused at the door. "Why is it so cold in here?" he muttered. I didn't know what he meant until I stepped inside. The bathroom was ice cold, and yet, when he touched the pipes and checked the walls, he said they were all normal. Nothing leaking. No rust. Just cold. Then he moved the curtain aside and leaned into the tub. "Smells like mildew or something died in here," he said. I was about to answer when he stood up suddenly. "You see this?" On the inside of the curtain, invisible from the outside, was something etched into the plastic. It looked like smeared dirt or dried blood. I couldn't tell. It wasn't writing. It was more like a rough imprint, like a pair of legs pressed into the curtain. The outlines of feet, calves, knees, kneeling, as if someone had been waiting there, unmoving for hours. He asked if I was messing with him. I told him no. Then I saw his face pale. "You might want to talk to your landlord," he said, and packed his tools up fast. "I don't think he'll come back." I was sitting in the living room around midnight when I heard the familiar shh of the shower turning on. I crept toward the hallway. The light under the bathroom door glowed soft and warm, as if someone was inside. The door was closed, but I hadn't closed it. It took every ounce of courage. I had to slowly place my ear to the wood. The water ran constantly. No voices, no movement, just that long, hissing pour. I finally turned the knob, ready to yell. But the moment the door opened, the water stopped. The bathroom was dry, bone dry. The curtain was open again. The tub was empty. No water, no mist, not even a droplet. But on the mirror, in the steam that should not have been there, were handprints, one after another, dozens, all pressed from the inside of the mirror, each one the size of a child's hand. I bought a cheap motion-activated camera and aimed it at the shower right before I left for the evening, just in case. When I came home, everything was quiet. I checked the footage of my kitchen table. At 2:14 a.m., the camera blinked on. The curtain, which I had left fully drawn open, slowly slid shut. Then, nothing. 10 minutes later, the curtain bulged outward just slightly, like someone was pressing into it. But there were no shadows. No noise. At 2:37 a.m., the camera blinked off. I couldn't watch anymore. When I checked the bathroom, the curtain was open again, but the rug was wet. And this time, so were the sheets on my bed. I packed a bag and got a hotel. I needed one night without fear. One night without legs behind the curtain. I didn't even take a shower. I just collapsed in bed and waited to feel normal again. At 3:10 a.m., the fire alarm went off in the hallway. I ran out. Everyone else did too, but there was no fire. When I got back into my room, the mirror above the bathroom sink was fogged over. And sitting in the middle of the room, between the bed and the door, was the rug from my bathroom, still wet. I haven't been able to sleep. I went back home because I can't afford another hotel, and everything here feels wrong, heavier. The lights flicker constantly. When I walk past the bathroom door, I hear breathing. Heavy, muffled breathing, like someone is crouched low behind the curtain. Twice now, I've seen it. A shadow cast onto the wall through the gap at the bottom of the curtain. Two legs bent, kneeling, motionless. When I whisper hello, it doesn't move. But when I stand too long in the doorway, the curtain ripples like it wants to open on its own. I haven't gone inside. Not since the night of the footprints. I haven't slept. Not properly. Not since the last time I saw the legs. I've barricaded the bathroom door. Taped shut the vents. Duct tape towels under every doorway. Covered every reflective surface. The TV. The microwave. Even my goddamn phone screen. But it doesn't matter. The sound still comes. Drip. Slide. Shuffle. Like wet feet smearing across linoleum. Like someone's waiting for the moment I look away. Or blink. I've stopped showering. I barely eat. And still, that smell, that rotting meat water smell, it's in the carpet now. In my clothes. It seeps through the walls. It clings like sweat behind your ears. And when I woke up an hour ago, I could swear I heard breathing inside the faucet. Not rushing water. Breathing. I don't know how long I've been awake, but I'm starting to see things move that shouldn't. I see the curtains swaying even when the windows are shut tight. I hear the fan turning on when no one's in the room. I hear two sets of footsteps when I walk. And then Last night, I finally got the courage to check behind the curtain again. There were no legs. Not at first. There was only water pooled on the floor, too much water, more than the tub could hold. It crept out like ink, seeping under my feet. Then, slowly, the curtain started to bulge outward, like something inside was breathing against it. Expanding. Slow. Deep. Vet. When I stepped closer, just to listen, I swear I heard something chuckle. Not laugh. Chuckle. And then the curtain moved just slightly, like fingers dragging along the plastic from the other side. And then the legs appeared. They dropped like something had been hanging upside down and just decided to descend. Bare. Blue. Bruised. Toes black and broken. One foot pointed completely backward. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. I just stood there, staring. And then the feet slowly retreated, not back up, but backwards, like they were sliding away from me, dragging the body they belonged to behind the curtain. And as they vanished, they left a trail of reddish slime across the tile. And that's when I saw it. A message etched in the condensation on the mirror behind me. Not yours to see. I booked another hotel. Somewhere far. Somewhere new. Somewhere dry. But when I got there, the room was humid. And the moment I opened the bathroom, the curtain was drawn. And on the floor, 2 puddles. 2 wet footprints. Pointing toward the curtain. Not away. I'm writing this from a rest stop in the middle of nowhere. I haven't stayed in one place longer than a night. I haven't showered in days. My throat is raw. My eyes burn. But it's still following me. Last night, I pulled into a roadside motel. Didn't even use the bathroom, just locked the door and curled up on the bed. But at 2:58 a.m., the pipes started rattling. The faucet turned on. I didn't check. I didn't have to. When I woke up, the room was soaked, and my socks were wet. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is what I found this morning in the back seat of my car. A single handprint, pressed into the fog on the inside of the rear window. It was upside down. Everywhere I go, it comes. Even when I sleep in my car, I hear it sloshing behind the seats. Even when I park at rest stops without a bathroom, I still hear the drip. Even when there's no curtain, I still wake up and see the shadow of 2 legs swaying behind one. And now, it's in the mirrors too. I covered every reflective surface I could, but earlier tonight, I saw it while passing a storefront window on a dark street. My own reflection lagged behind, just for a second, but it was wearing different clothes. And behind me, in the reflection, the curtain, drawn shut, bulging, wet. I don't think this thing ever meant to hurt me. Not really. It just wants me to see it, to look. And the longer I run, the more places I hide, the more I realize it doesn't live in the curtain. It is the curtain. It becomes whatever separates you from what you fear most. It hides in fabric, in steam, in the places we avoid looking. And when you finally do look, it knows. It stretches itself across bathrooms, hotels, basements, anywhere you try to wash away the things you're not ready to face. And it waits. It waits for you to open the curtain. It waits until you look underneath. It waits until you're too afraid to close your eyes. And then it climbs in under your skin, until your sweat smells like that water, until your dreams start from inside the tub, until your own legs start bruising for no reason, until someone else stares into a hotel mirror and sees your reflection lag behind. And someday soon, when they open the curtain, they'll see your feet first. Still, Bora, blue. I haven't slept. I haven't eaten. I haven't spoken a word aloud in over 24 hours because I'm afraid that if I do, the thing in the shower will answer me. You might think this is another dramatic delusion, some paranoid breakdown brought on by isolation or stress. You'd be forgiven if someone told me that a pair of legs, wet, pale, unmoving, had appeared behind their shower curtain every night at exactly 3:12 a.m. I would have told them to check themselves into a hospital. But I didn't make this up. I couldn't. It's not just happening to me anymore. Apartment 4B, Mrs. Kellner, is missing. Her door was wide open this morning when I worked up the nerve to step out and check. A single muddy footprint, shaped like a human heel but disturbingly long, was smeared on her bathroom tile. No struggle, no blood, no trace of her. Same with 5A. The younger guy who used to play synth music all night, gone. His bathtub had something wet and black sitting in it. I didn't stay long enough to find out what. They're all vanishing. All except me. I tried everything to catch it. I ran a camera overnight, black screen from 3:11 to 3:20. Just a buzzing white noise where video should have been. I left the curtain open, woke up to it drawn shut, the legs standing there closer this time, almost touching the edge of the tub. I duct taped the curtain open. That night, my camera fried. My ears bled, and when I checked the bathroom, the curtain was ripped from the rod, twisted into a spiral on the floor, and the legs were standing on it, facing the door, waiting. It started smelling something, faint at first, like old pennies and mold, but now it's thick. The whole apartment reeks like something rotting inside a wet towel. And the drain? The drain spitting out hair. Not mine. Not any humans I've seen. It's long, clotted with scalp tissue. Once, I thought I heard someone whispering under the running water. A woman's voice, breathless, saying, "Pull it back. Just look. Look at me." But I didn't. God help me, I didn't. I know what happens when you do. I finally tracked down the old super. Found his phone number scrawled on the bottom of a fuse box behind the basement laundry chute. I called him at 2 a.m. He didn't say hello. He just whispered, "You saw the legs, didn't you?" He said her name was Alira, a tenant who lived here in the early 1980s. Died in the tub, slit her wrists, and bled out behind the shower curtain. She was found days later, legs pale, dangling off the side of the tub. They removed her body, but not her reflection. He said sometimes when people look too long, she'd look back, but only from the knees down. They buried her, but not deep enough. Last night, I didn't sleep. I didn't blink. I sat with a knife in my hand, watching the clock tick to 3:12. The lights flickered. The floor grew wet. I heard her step out of the tub. For the first time, she moved. She didn't walk. She crawled. I heard the slap of wet skin on tile, moving slow but purposeful, dragging itself toward the door. I held my breath, praying she wouldn't reach the hallway. But she didn't need to. When I blinked, she was standing at the foot of my bed. Just the legs. Nothing else. I tried leaving again. I opened the door and found the hallway. Gone. Only a long corridor of rusted bathroom tiles stretching out forever, puddles forming at my feet. The walls bled steam, and far in the distance, I saw her silhouette, a curtain hanging midair, and behind it the legs, always facing me, always still, always smiling. Because I finally looked, I pulled back the curtain, burned the shower curtain. Never sleep through 3:12, and never, ever try to see what's above the knees. She lets you see the legs first because that's what she died as, a pair of legs rotting in lukewarm water. But she's growing now, becoming whole again, one tenant at a time. I can't leave. There's no door anymore. Only the sound of dripping. Only the faint whisper, "Look at me."